So I feel like if we are doing a 3D animation directly in 3D, then it would take a week or so. So let's say 7 to 10 days. But if we are using a 2D animation, then it would take a couple of hours, like 4 to 5 hours. And if now this is effective and quick as compared to this, but then if we use the sound effect to figure it out, then it would take 30 seconds to 1 minute to figure out and plan the complete animation. So in this one we are gonna talk about this thing, how to figure out your animation in a minute or less using the sound effects, of course. But before I dive into that, I'm gonna do a very easy, very quick ball bounce example just to illustrate how you can reverse engineer the complex animation from the animated movie. Like while studying the animated movie, how you can reverse engineer what has already been animated to learn more about this craziness, this crazy trick. I'm gonna do a basic ball bounce, and then I'm gonna show you how the hits, how the squash poses would match the sounds, and then we are going to create the sound effects and a variation of sound effects, and I'm going to show you how to create the sound effect, and then I'm going to do and then I'm going to import the sound effect of one of the sound effect that we create into the flipbook, and then we are going to do a demo, a ball bounce demo basic for the starting, and maybe I can show you advanced version of this thing using the basic sound effects like a jump or something. It is such a basic thing, but then the thing is it can be applied to either the easy animations, the simple basics, or the advanced animations. But then it is the fastest way to figure out the timing, the interesting timing. Let's play. So yeah, so this is the demo, and then what I wanna show using this ball bounce example is that this is a ball bounce, but there's no sound or anything, but then we can create a sound for this thing. Like I'm basically reverse engineering what I wanted to show in this demo, but then I felt it would be great if we start with this thing, and then we can talk about how we can create a ball bounce using the sound effect. So it would be complete opposite process. So let's say if there was a sound on every hit, there was a sound. And we don't have to worry about that, or we can even like talk about that like a couple frames later there would be a sound, right? So let's see. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So the sound would be obviously over here, right, for this exit frame. So now that I've talked about this thing, then there would be 3 4 1 1 2 3 4. This is pretty even, but then once we understand this thing, then we can like break up the timing and all. So this is 1 2 3 4. So instead of saying 1 2 3 4, we can use a sound effect, like we can create any like crazy sound effect using like rolling our tongue with the like, if these are the teeth. I'm not good at the drawing, but then if you just roll your tongue and then teeth, roll your tongue, then you can create sounds like, or and push air out of this thing. This is the mouth. This is the bad mouth, but then again, it works for the demo, right? Whatever works. This is the tongue. If you roll the tongue and then you create the sound of or or so that on every hit we are gonna create this sound. So once we are going in the reverse order, like now I'm gonna show you how to use a sound to come up with an animation. But then this was basic to make you understand of this point that I am demonstrating over here. So we, because it is a pretty even, because it is just a basic, and then later on I can show the advanced version of this thing. So it's, hope this makes sense. Let's create a couple of sounds and just let's like record, and let's come up with a couple of crazy variation of this 4 or 5 hits. So let's do this. So it can be, that's pretty basic, like everything is pretty even. That means the pause between 2 hits is same all the time, and we are creating a variation between the 2 pauses. So we can increase this pause and we can decrease this pause, right? We can decrease this pause and we can increase the pause between the blank space between this sound. That means it would be like this. Then it would be, that means, or we can decrease this thing and then increase this thing. Don't confuse it with anything like the ball mouse. It is just the music thing we are talking about right now. It is just the sound effect. So we, so if I say, that means there is less pause between 2 musical like beats or sound effects. And then if I say, that means there's more space between that. So let's come up with a couple of crazy sound effects. Let's see, we don't need that. Let's do this. So this one is interesting. Or so these are a variation of this basic ball bounce, and you don't have to even like do that thing. You don't even have to like start with a 2D test. Like you can just experiment this thing, and a easy trick to get better at it is like whenever you frame through an animation movie, or whenever you are playing an animation movie, just then just select a scene, like maybe some cartoony thing like Scrat in the Ice Age or some like crazy like character, and then just just play a scene, and then just try to create a sound effect like I did with the ball bounce in the starting. So that's the way to reverse engineer. So reverse engineer while watching the movies, so that after doing that, like you'll get familiar to create this crazy sound effects. And then once you get familiar with this thing, then you can like do this anytime, like whenever I'm like working on some assignment or anything, then it becomes like a second nature. Like I'm always like figuring out, like I'm not paying attention to it, but I'm doing this, or for any complex action, even like or you can figure out like the hang time and everything, all the crazy complex animation principle using this simple trick. And it just takes like 15 to 30 seconds max to record a sound, and then it is super efficient and super quick to use this thing. And now I'm gonna show you how to import that sound into Flipbook to do a 2D test, or to Maya to do a 3D test. And a basic test for the starting, like a ball bounce, using that, like obviously variation and interesting timing that we created in the sound effect. So let's start with this thing. Let's just import that audio into Flipbook, and let's get going with that. Okay, so let's import the sound and this thing. Import sound, track on, okay. Manual sound file. So to desktop. AA01. Okay. Now we can play the sound. Extend this thing. Let's see how long this is. Okay. Now after we have imported this sound, and I hope you can hear the sound. Now after we have imported this sound, we'll just obviously play it. And after playing it, we can figure out, we need to figure out like how many hits are there. That means I can hear, that means 1, then there are 2 hits, then so there are basically 4 hits in that. So the rough graph should be like something like this. That means it would be bouncing like this. Rough would be like this. So once we have idea of this thing, then we can figure out, then the next step is to figure out where those hits are gonna be. Like this is our timeline, right? These are our frame, and we already have the sound effect, so we don't need to, now we can like shut down our mind and then just let the sound effect that we create in like 15 to 30 seconds guide us through a complete animation. And it would be even easier and it would be even simpler. Let's do this. Let's figure out the first step, and we can scrub through this thing. So this is the first set, and I'm like scrubbing through, so it was on 31. So what I'll do is on 31 I'll just mark X. Right now I don't know like how far it is gonna be, or how much up, or like the timing, spacing, all that crazy stuff. I don't know anything about that. I'm just like marking an X for the sound effect. Then the second one is on 45. That means another X on 45. Just a rough like mark of where it might be. And then another one on 49. It's closer. Then another one on 61. This is the last one. 61. And maybe it goes out or maybe not. We are gonna play with this idea, and maybe we can end on 69. Let's play and let's see if we have marked those on the right places. And you can see like We have marked on right mismatch. Or you can experiment, like if it is not right, then you can experiment, and like it would be like 1 frame 2 frame earlier or later. So just experiment. So yeah, now I can visually see, now I can hear the sound effect, hear the hits, and now even like I can visually see this thing. So this becomes even more easier now. So let's do this. Let's create the wall ones. Now let's create something complex using the same principle. So now I'm gonna go to like 1. I know there was not 1 but on 31. I need to go directly to 31 because let's say that it is entering from the screen left. So we need to place this thing. We don't need to figure out anything. Now we are gonna place this thing on this frame 31. Let's delete this thing. So this is on 31 on the first hit. Then we can just like copy paste these things to simplify our life. This is the second hit, third hit, then the fourth hit. If the hit sound is stronger, then it would be more squash. If it is not that strong, then it would be not that extreme squash. So let's play it and see if it is on the right frame. Yeah, I hope it works. Now once we have done this thing, then we can figure out, obviously it is gonna come from the top. So now we can like do all the crazy up pose. And then I talked about this thing in the previous demo, that the easiest way to create the up pose is to figure out the center of this thing. Obviously all the up poses would be a ball, right? It would retain its original shape, so it would be a ball. So we can like create a ball and then copy paste it wherever we want to place. So we are figuring out where would be the up of between this thing. So we'll figure out how many frames are there. So what is the center of the 45 and 31, because the number of frame it takes to go up would be exactly similar to the number of frame it takes to come down. So let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6. Then this would be the center. So I'm gonna place this thing on here. I'm not gonna worry about anything else. So let's place this thing over here. Then figure out the center of this. It is obvious, right? It is this one. So you don't need to worry about anything. Place this thing. Figure out the center of this thing. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 and then 6. Let me see this thing. Let's see if it plays right. It would. Yeah. Let's go ahead and place 1 on the top, like when it is coming in. Let's just roughly see this, because we are experimenting with this thing. Nothing is final yet. Like in 2D, don't consider it as a final. Don't consider anything as a final. And let's do something like when it is going out or something. And we can figure out, and we can change this thing if we don't like it. So let's play this. This is strong hit, so maybe this thing. So yeah, let's do now. We don't need to figure out anything else now. Just use the principle of principles that like I talked in the previous demo. That is like there would be the basic half principle, half method. after doing this one stretch after every squash. One stretch before every squash and after every squash. That means there will be stretch over here, be squash, there will be stretch after this thing. And there see, now I've figured out like there won't be any more frame in this thing, and our audio is fixed. We can like change the audio. So maybe we'll like just bring this thing a bit down so that it doesn't mess up with anything, because now we won't have any other in between, and so that our stretch pose would be the in between, and we won't have anything else than that. That's the reason why I'm like bringing this thing down. Let's just use this thing. Let's just create. So now I can do this thing, and if it doesn't works, then don't worry about anything. It is just 2D and it is super quick, so you can like delete that and like let's copy paste this thing. So what I'm doing is a stretch before a squash and after a squash. That means this one would be before this thing, after a squash. Squash, and copy pasting these things. So copy paste this, copy, and then just before this thing. That's it. So one more just before this thing. It is super easy and it is super fun. Yeah, we've already figured out more than half of this thing. So now this is the top, and I already talked about this thing. We are gonna move towards the top from this pose, and we are gonna divide it in half, and then keep dividing it in half. So go from here, go to here, keep dividing in half, and then we can like keep dividing it in half. I can copy paste this thing, but not doing that, just to show this thing a little bit better. And then we are gonna come from this, not gonna go from this, but then come from this. Divide it in half, divide it in half, and then leave the frames. So we are going from upwards, not down. So obviously we don't need anything for this thing. And then just divide it in half, divide it in half, divide it in half. Just leave this thing, not do that. Now again we are coming from the bottom towards this thing, so divide it in half, divide it in half, leave this one and do this. So let's just frame through this thing, and obviously we cannot change the sound effect because it is fixed, and then we cannot change these squash, and then now we cannot like change this thing because it is exactly in the middle. And then obviously there would be a stretch before the squash, after the squash. That's pretty basic, and then we get these middle frames by dividing in half. So everything is fixed. Like you don't have to do anything in this. Let's just, it is just a demo, but then let's just, then we can play. I'm pretty sure it would work, because why wouldn't it? Like, we are not dealing with anything complex. It is, everything is pretty easy, so it would work. It is super fun. Like this thing, even Churi made my life so much easier. But then this trick is even so much better than that. And let's just create this pose in the end, because it is gonna come back to its stop position. Let's create this in the end. We are not even creating that, we are just copy pasting that. So let's play this. Yeah, it's working now. See? Now it is working, and we don't have to like think about animating this thing, so we can practically like do any other task while animating this thing. So we can like multitask. And then now just to like add in a little bit to make it a little bit better, like we can add in a stretch before the final stop, so that it won't make that much of a difference, but then just to make it better, so stretches and then it ends. So yeah, this thing, copy this thing. Let's see, this thing. So now, yeah, once you are done with this thing, you can like turn off the sound. Now you don't need to like show the sound. Like if your assignment doesn't say anything about the sound, but then you wanna create some interesting timing, animation with interesting timing, turn off the sound and just play the animation and export without the sound. See? And then you can create any crazy sound like or or anything. You can like come up with anything. Like there would be millions of variation of just the sound effects. So that's it for now.